All right, welcome back, everyone. Another awesome episode beneath the helmet. Today, we're going to jump into something that's kind of a bit of a passion of mine, a bit of a side passion, I guess you could say. But the guest I have today knows a wealth of information all around technology and AI. And for anyone who's known me over the years, know that I'm a kind of an early adopter to technology, AI, and I've written some stuff about it, talked about it before, but today we get to really do a deep dive into kind of what AI is and how it can support firefighter wellness spiritually, mentally, physically. So today I got Justin Brunner on here, CEO of a company. He's also a school professor and a firefighter. So he's going to share his wisdom, his nuggets all around technology and how it can support firefighters. So welcome to the show, Justin.
It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again for having me on. And interesting that the article that you wrote got us connected in here in firefighting in Canada. That's kind of what kicked this discussion off in everything that we're doing with AI, and especially in around wellness. I mean, it's such an important thing. Burnout. I mean, you've written a book on it. But how can we help ourselves with that? How can we recognize it? How can we look for tools that are going to help us with this in our day-to-day lives, in our jobs, and that's a big thing. And early adoption of AI is really taken off. It's really grown, and it's great to see how people are using it and the tools that are being developed out there to help us. Right? It's not here to replace us, especially in the fire services. I don't know. Maybe we're years, maybe tens of years, hundreds of years away from the Terminator firefighter, whatever comes of it in terms of AI. But with what we have in front of us today, I mean, there's so much great information. It does come with that caveat. We need to be careful because AI has a tendency to drift sometimes, right? It can hallucinate. Right? But we don't want to kind of just stick to one tool. We want to follow up with things that we're researching and things that we're doing, right? We don't always want to trust that one source. And I don't know, it's just been an excellent journey of everything that's happened really over the last 3, maybe to 5 years, if you dig a little deeper into where AI has come from.
That's amazing how much has happened over the last 3 to 5 years in the tech world, especially around AI. And honestly, almost every day there's some new AI something or other out there, right? So
And
tell our
that's a
listeners
scary part. It is to try and keep up with it. My God, like the tech industry, things change within 6 weeks, but AI is it's exponentially gone up. Things are going faster and faster and faster. And being in the tech industry, that's one of the major burnouts for people, is just trying to keep up with this or figure out what's going to have longevity behind it and what's going to stick around and what isn't. And that's a whole rabbit hole in itself.
And just the investment of investing in tech and AI and then finding out that, oh, it's obsolete now. Something better and greater is out there, right? So tell listeners today a little bit about who Justin is, kind of a little snapshot of who you are and kind of where you came from and how you joined the fire service, became a teacher, and got into technology.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. In terms of where I went, I formally trained in design and development, really embedded in the tech sector after college. I went to a local college here in Ontario, in London, Ontario, at Fanshawe College. I was formally trained there in design, and then went down the dark hole of development and working with that. And then after graduating, worked for a few tech companies, did a lot of design work, had a lot of great clients, a lot of Fortune 500 companies. So anybody that has gone to a Tim Hortons and seen the digital signage, probably at some point you've seen some of the content that I created in my early career that probably convinced you to get an extra donut that you probably didn't need. And after 5, 6, 7 years doing that, I was actually asked by one of my former instructors at the college to look into teaching. Right. And before that, my only claim to fame in teaching was coaching a bantam baseball team. Right. That was my kind of touch on teaching and coaching people. And I thought, hey, why not? I need a new challenge in my life. I'm gonna jump ship here and give a shot at teaching. And 17 years later, here I am. I've taught many great courses and many great programs at the college, dealing with tech, dealing with design, dealing with user experience. And as I grew within those programs, in the last couple of years, AI became a real big point for me in looking at what we could do with it, how it can save us time, and how can we partner with this as an individual to kind of grow ourselves, um, but use it as kind of that personal assistant. And kind of throughout that time, the last 4 years, my wife and I decided that we were done with city life, and we decided to move out to a small town. And lo and behold, there was a fire station 3 doors down, and the fire services has been in my family since 1926, in Austria. My great uncle was the very first volunteer firefighter in our family, and it kind of stuck throughout time. Here with us, my dad retired as the chief of station. My two brothers are captains, and I was the last one to kind of jump into bunker gear. Right? We moved to a small town, and there it was. There was the sign that I needed. Talked to the firefighters here, and got on board, got my certification, and here we are today. It's been kind of a wild ride from the days as a child at the fire station, watching the training that they were doing. And this was back in the 80s when safety was a concern, but not a big concern.
Yeah.
Stick your kid in the trunk of a car and see if the other firefighters can find them, and things like that. Not that that happens anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride and everything that we've done. And in the last 2 years here, I've started up Desisolve, and we've created our assist platform to assist fire departments in scenario-based training. And we utilize AI to help power that and do a lot of that heavy lifting that causes, officers and training officers and chiefs a lot of that paperwork. So we've streamlined a lot of those processes. We've mapped a lot to the NFPA standards, to the ISO standards, and we've given people more time to do the things that they love best. And that comes back from my teaching days. I spent 10 to 15 hours on a lesson plan. Did I like it? Yeah, I liked a bit of it. But what filled my cup was engaging with students, working with students, watching them shine, watching them, that light turn on when they figure something out. That's what filled my cup. But it was that heavy lifting before that. That was kind of the start of when you can burn yourself out, because you can become so committed to trying to create something so great. And then when something falls apart, as inevitably it might, somebody might ask a question that kind of sidelines a lecture or an exercise that you're doing, and then you overthink it. And then for a week, you're kind of grinding on that. Well, how can I make it better? So it's that inevitable loop that really leads us to that burnout. And I envision our tool, and that's from the get-go. It's always been about how we can save people time and get them back, on the fire ground in training, out of the classroom, out of the office, right? Let's do that hands-on training. Let's do that scenario-based training, and let everybody shine. Let everybody learn from it, and make sure that everybody's engaged.
Love that journey that you've gone through in your life, all these different steps of your life, especially in adulthood. But I've gone through a demo of your program, your system, your platform, and it is pretty amazing, I gotta say. For the listeners right now, we're going to share more about this in a little bit, but yeah, it's one of those programs that I could honestly see saving training officers, chiefs, firefighters loads and loads of time. So well done on that initiative for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think to kind of start us off, I'm a little curious because I know the school systems are a little apprehensive of AI and what it's doing to cheaters, uh, or anything like that, where people are like, oh, I'm not going to necessarily do the work. I'm just going to get AI to do the work. So being in a school system, being a professor, a school teacher yourself, obviously in the tech world, you have a different perspective. Did you have any battles to go up against of proving that AI and the AI tech world was okay in the school systems?
It's some people are a little apprehensive with it, and I think we're lucky being in the tech sector because we are the ones that are utilizing this stuff. We're testing it. We're figuring out what we can use it for and what it's great at, what it's not great at. For us, though, we've been very early adopters in this. One of my first year classes that I teach, we spend time utilizing it to have it explain things to us that maybe we don't understand, or um, kind of how I like to frame it. I believe very much in teaching within context, and certain things need to happen. And you hear it a lot with students where if we're doing some sort of technical demo, they will understand it in the classroom because it's working. Okay. And there's a couple things. They're following along, they're in the classroom, and they're with the instructor. Now, when they leave the classroom, we've removed things. We've removed the fact that, okay, they're outside of the classroom. So maybe they have their technology at home, which is good, but they've lost the instructor and they've lost their peers. So things come out of context for them. And we teach them early on to utilize AI to help them keep up with that context in terms of this is what I was working on. Here are the files I was working with. Now, a problem has happened, or I've created a problem in the language that I'm working with, or some sort of function or problem solving, or some sort of operator that I've put in has caused a problem. And it can go through and walk you through and have a conversation with you and explain what it is that you've been working on, what you've been doing. You can have that conversation with it. Well, this was my expected outcome. Here's the outcome that I got. I figure the problem resides here. So what it's doing is we've used it in a way to create these personal tutors for students, right? We still are going to face the thing where a student runs out of time, right? We're not all great with time management. I mean, we all struggle with it. Um, and at a younger age, everybody struggles with it, right? So yes, maybe sometimes they're going to use AI to do the work for them, but it's really evident, right? You can see there's things in there that AI does, there's patterns, and then you can have those conversations with the student and state, hey, that's great, but what did you learn from this? Walk me through. What did you ask it? What were the questions? Show me the responses, right? So we teach them early on to make those mistakes with AI and have it do all of its work. But then we show them how they can benefit by actually using the tool to teach themselves, create their own personal tutor, right? And there's huge benefits to that. So it teaches them to problem solve. And in them explaining what their problem is to AI is the very same thing that they do to us in the classroom. Here's what I did. This is what happened. Now, how can we work through this problem? Well, if I'm not there to help them with that, they now have their AI companion that fills that seat for me. Will it ever replace teachers? Probably not. I wouldn't think so. I hope not. But will it empower students? Will it empower learners? 100%. It's going to.
And if you correlate that to the fire service, that's going to help our recruitment, our retention, our probationary firefighters understand NFPA, fire behavior, everything, fire science so much better because they'll have that personal tutor with them in the back pocket, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And the growth of AI as well, there you still have hallucination, but having the ability to point AI to the data that you're working with and the content that you're working with to keep it within context, right? Should you still kind of keep the rails on in terms of the content that's coming back? Yes, always validate and ask AI to validate its content. But from what we've seen in the tests that we've done, it is getting better and better every day um, in giving you back the correct information.
This podcast is all about firefighter mental health, physical health, spiritual health, the mind, body, and spirit. So I truly feel that AI can free up a lot of areas in our life, professionally, at home, volunteer career, our personal lives. What would be some ways that AI can free up and support our learning, maybe even 10x our learning through AI in the fire service, especially around the wellness area of firefighters.
Yeah, no, that's 100% agree with that. There's so much out there in terms of tools that we can use to help us, whether it's to help schedule our days better, our days off better. It could be fitness, right? It could be eating. There's a lot of things that tools are being empowered with AI that customize those particular tools to the actual user. And we're seeing a huge growth in that. uh, Educating ourselves, right? That's a big one. Even second guessing actions that we committed, right? We're not always going to be around, our peers to talk about a call, to run our actions by somebody, right? And something could hit you at 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't get back to sleep. You're like, man, I could have done better on that call. Maybe there's something else I could have done. AI can be there for you, right? Just to run that by you, gather and collect that information on how to do a better job, or even just having somebody to talk to run things through that you understand. Okay, that given the situation, that's the best that anybody could have done. It could have been A, B, or C, right? I took A because it made the most sense to me at the time, but now I know B and C are also options, and I'm not going to be having this 3 o'clock conversation with myself or a computer, the next time something like this comes up. Um, in terms of work-life balance, that's another big one, right? As an instructor, you're constantly taking stuff home with you, right? This is going to be that 10x. And when you get really good with AI and utilizing the right tools and getting tools good with those tools, it could be a 50x, right? You're not going to be bringing that work home with you, which gives you that opportunity to put you first, right? In emergency services, we're putting everybody else first. Then when we're getting home, right, if we need to do the next drill, the next setup, what are we doing, in a month from now for training? Because the chiefs are asking, we need to rent equipment. There's things that we need to do. We can really expedite those processes and then give us that time when we leave the station, when we leave work, to put that time into us where we don't need to be thinking about our job. And that's so important. That's how we avoid burnout. If we're working all day and we bring that work home with us, we're not giving ourselves, you know, that time, right? How much can you pour out of an empty cup at the end of the day? And that's the path we go down when we start to bring work home with us.
I love all those things, and I personally use every aspect of AI, just as you mentioned, in my own life now. And I wish I had that as a fire chief for sure, because it would have either extended my career or made my career much more enjoyable and healthy, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
So I think time is probably one of the most important things in life. We only have so much time, and time is one of those things that I really think AI can to help us with. So for maybe the fire chief who's listening right now, what how could AI reduce some of the time tasks that we have that are really mundane, that really AI could take over for us, and we can concentrate on being with our people versus stuck behind a desk?
Yeah. Terms of chiefs, I think the big one I'm seeing in a lot of questions that we've gotten have been around the SOGs and SOPs, right? With just the changes over the last couple of years in the fire services and the different fires that people are dealing with now, right? You're constantly revisiting things. And SOGs and SOPs are definitely a big one there where you can utilize AI, you can give it a template, you can feed it all of your SOGs and SOPs, and have it go through and highlight things that need to be updated, highlight things that need to be changed, right? I use it with teaching in terms of feedback. I don't have AI give the students feedback. I mean, that doesn't come from me if I have AI do that, but I utilize AI. I summarize the feedback for the students, and AI just puts it into a set template for me, right? And rejigs it that I don't have to go through and make sure my grammar's correct, my spelling's correct, and all of those pieces. AI does that for me. utilizing the mic for that has been great, right? Saves my fingers. It saves myself from being hunched over a keyboard all day and messing up my back, which has been a huge time saver in itself. Documentation's a big one. When you can just sit back and talk to a system and have it output your form for you, AI is not writing it, it's just summarizing that content for you. And that's a huge time saver, right? Because a good percentage of your time, 40% of your time is probably rereading, going, that's not quite what I meant. Maybe I should have said it like this, or well, that's not grammatically correct, or what was I thinking when I spelled that word? Right? AI can help us with those pieces. And you see a lot of those tools out here already, Grammarly. Um, and I mean, it's built into our email now, it's built into Microsoft Word, it's built into all of these programs. Right. So optimizing it and using additional tools on top of it, it's going to be a huge time saving for chiefs.
And then one of the things that pops in my mind is like the year-end report. So the annual fire department report. I spent, it felt like weeks putting that together, maybe even months putting that together, because I want to really showcase what our fire service was doing over the year, and had to go back from January to December, and just imagine what AI could do with all that information to help me summarize, go through it much quicker, probably within 2 days, maybe even an hour, maybe even a day, could have it all done, and just as good as I did doing it over a month or two, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
huge time saver.
Oh, definitely. It can go through. You feed it all of that data. Now, ethically, a lot of people are thinking, well, does that data have phone numbers? Does it have people's names? Does it have addresses and things like that? But depending on how you set up your data, you can take a subset from an Excel document and get rid of that information and just give it the notes that you need. And as for the rest of that data, you could summarize that yourself as well. So there are ways around that from an ethical standpoint of sharing people's personal information. And I know that's kind of that's been a hot topic for a lot of people. And that's where you see, the bigger organizations, the government organizations looking at it going, okay, like we have access to a lot of people's personal information. We really don't want to be feeding this into some sort of AI system where it gets registered. So look at your data and what's in there. Is it important? Are there names and addresses too? You can kind of redact that information and still feed that data set in there.
So how about the firefighter, the training officer? Anything different in their worlds that AI could support them?
Oh, 100%. For training, that's the big one because we want to be compliant. We want to make sure that we're checking off all of those boxes. Um, and you catch yourself spending so much time creating those drills, creating those exercises. Um, it could be 10 to 15 hours that you're spending doing that. And if you're doing 5 of those a week, if you're doing one a week, whatever that is, right? We can utilize AI to save us that time. It can map our standards to it for the NFPA. We can map for Ontario here any of the skill sheets, any of the JPRs that we need to do, right? We can map that all in. We can map in the equipment that we're going over, right? We can make sure that we have that equipment here. So there's a lot of stuff that we can utilize AI for to help us build out the way we train already, but be more efficient with it. AI is going to learn how we train. We can template it in a way to say, this is what I need every time for a training night. Let's build this out together. You have the ability to have a conversation with it and say, you know what? We don't do it this way. We do it this way because of X, Y, and Z, and the system's going to learn, right? And with the system we built with Assist, it's very much like that. You have customizable inputs that you put in based off of your location, the equipment you have, the personnel you have, the skills that you want to train to, right? It'll map your NFPA standards. It'll provide readings from books that you use and training documents that you use. It'll add in SOGs and SOPs for you. So it'll do a lot of that heavy lifting. It'll create your lesson plan. It will give you um, everything you need for your slide deck, right? So if you like doing PowerPoint at the beginning, whether it's 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, right? Depends on how much you like to lecture or not lecture. That will all get built out for you. right? So you can take that 10 to 15 hours if you're really dedicated to building out compliant training, and you can knock all of that out within an hour with very minimal work, but you still need that insight into training. That's why you'll never be replaced because you know your people, you know your equipment, you know your area. AI doesn't know any of that. It just knows that it needs to kind of put all of those pieces together for you. And at the end of the day, it's that time saving is going to be a massive, massive thing for training officers and really help with that burnout, right? They're going to dedicate all of that time and then they go and do the training and then they overthink the training and then they have all it just snowballs on you, right? So how can we alleviate that and how can we support them in everything that they do? And AI isn't going to come back and be like, there's not enough time, there's not enough budget. It's going to come back and go, okay, this is what you asked for. Now let's work with it. Let's make this work for you.
Yeah, you could even put your budget in there. I have $30,000 to work within. How do I make this happen? Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. I love how you kind of mentioned fear because I think there is a big fear around AI that's going to replace us. It's going to take over our jobs. Fire service probably a little bit lower on the pole, but still, it is a potential that somewhere down the road there's going to be robots, AI-driven robots that are firefighters. But I still think that there's so much value in the human connection, especially in public service, that I think we're decades and decades away from that dissolving. But I do think there is a fear there. So, how
Mhm.
would you address somebody who's a firefighter who's fearful of AI and kind of like apprehensive of even starting to use it? And like you said before, AI is already in a lot of tools we're already using that we don't even really realize or recognize as AI. But for those who are maybe not fighting it, but not really on board with AI and its future, what would you say to that person?
Don't be afraid, right? It's treat it like any other tool,
Hmm.
right? Were we afraid of fire extinguishers when they came out? Were we afraid of the Halligan? Were we afraid of the axe, right? These AI is another tool to help us and to support us. And that's what it's here for. Yeah. Is there a fear? Has it replaced jobs? I don't think it's directly replaced a job. I think it's just made people more efficient that when a team needed 20 people, now maybe they only need 15 because they can do more in a day. So look at AI as something that's going to optimize your workflow. It's not going to replace you by any means. I can never see it replacing a training officer, right? Even to replace a firefighter, right? If a robot's going to come into my house and pull me out of a window, is it going to be nice to me? Is it going to, support me and say everything's going to be all right? Who knows, right? You can watch the RoboCop movies. He wasn't exactly the nicest person when he pulled somebody over, but what is that going to look like? And, I can't see that happening, like you said, anytime soon. But it's here, it's really here to support and optimize our workflows. And that's kind of what I'm sticking to at this point, and
Like a
I'm fairly optimistic and seeing what we've done with it at Decisolve, and even what other companies have done with AI, and all of the stuff, all of the great stuff that we're seeing is it's there to, I don't know, we've kind of coined it for our own product. It's here to assist you, is what it's here to do,
percent.
right? And you just have to figure out how that fits within your workflow.
Well, the fire service and other first responders were experts at adapting, right? So this is our time to adapt once again with
Mhm.
new technology, right? And I truly think that, like you say, it frees up a lot of our time. It assists us on a daily basis, allowing us to connect with our firefighters once again. Because I know there's been a trend over the decades to kind of almost not connect as much, right? And less time socializing, less time connecting, talking. We're always just so busy that we never have that time to connect, right? So I think that's going to be a huge shift in our culture for the positive, using AI to reduce our workload, allowing us to connect once again, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's so important. We see that in education, right? We can sit up there and lecture. We can have people read books, go through websites, look at white papers, right? But within 24 hours, 70% of that is gone. we forget it, right? But it's that in person, it's the hands-on, it's the conversations that's where things stick. And that's where we need to be, right? We're not sending out a text message, hey guys, read these chapters. Next practice, make sure we have this, this, and this, right? It's about in person, it's about having those conversations. It's about, right, why are we doing this? How are we going to achieve this? What are additional outcomes from this? How are other ways that we could approach these problems, right? And it's those kind of those water cooler chats. How do we take those out of the station and onto the training ground? We've embedded a lot of that within Assist as well as part of our output. We provide those lists of questions to ask to the different ranks, to ask to a firefighter, to ask to an officer, to ask to a chief, right? It could be IC, it could be accountability, right? During these evolutions, as we're going through and doing our training, okay, what are our thoughts? What did we figure out? What happened when we escalated a scenario? What happened when there was a mayday? How did we respond? How should we have responded? Right? Is there a better way of handling this? So we embed a lot of that in there so we keep people engaged, right? The last thing we want is to create a dry drill. Put the ladder up, take the ladder down. Put the ladder up, take the ladder down. Okay, why are we putting the ladder up? Are we doing a rescue out of a window? Are we venting? What side do we want to be on? Did you pay attention to wind? Right? There's all of these different things we need to think of. And, new firefighters, those are the things you need to hear, right? Not just, okay, that's how a ladder goes up, but why? Right?
Oh
What are
yeah.
the outcomes of doing what we're doing? And we inject a lot of that in there into each one of the scenarios that gets developed as a reminder, because it can be, the training ground can get chaotic at times depending on how many people are going through, and you're one person or maybe you're a training cadre, but you're going to be pulled in multiple directions, and we're not always going to remember those points. Right? Throughout my 17 years of teaching, I still have those days where I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe I forgot to tell them about that. And now I've got to send that email. Now I've got to follow up. But I'm quickly realizing that when I forget that, now I've taken something else out of context. They can read the email and go, don't remember that. Right? It's been 24 hours. We've already lost 70% of it. So how do we keep everything within context? So the goal is we want to provide as much information as we can, as much clarity throughout each one of those scenarios. That's going to make those days lighter for the training officer, right? They know they have their list of questions. They know how that drill is supposed to be run. Now they can go out and enjoy it. They can be there to correct things and help with things and ask those questions to engage the people that they're training.
Love it. Love it. Definitely aligned with that for sure. I'm very curious. Where do you see the fire service in the technology AI space in, say, 3, 5 years? Where do you think it will be embedded in pretty much every fire department across North America?
Communications will definitely be a big one,
Mhm.
right? To be able to recognize things. I've seen a lot of great talks in and around that, just utilizing AI to kind of track that incident, track the radio reports, and then look at various prediction models on where a fire is going and why it's going that way. I can see that kind of coming to the forefront very, very quickly as that grows and gets larger. Um, Assisting chiefs with paperwork, looking at data is going to be a big one, right? So those predictive models for, as a city grows, what are some things that we can expect because of population growth and density, right? We have access to all of this information, so why not utilize it and then become predictive with that? Do we need to grow departments? Do we need to add another department in an area? So there's going to be a lot of help done there utilizing AI as we grow it out. Training is going to be a big one, right? And I'm not saying that because we're doing that ourselves, but I see that in the education space, right? We see students utilizing AI all of the time, and I've had assignments where I go through the assignment, and I'm like, wow, this person really knocked it out of the park. I can tell they did the work, and I follow up with them and go, okay, what tools did you use? And sometimes students get hesitant. They're like, well, I used AI. And I'm like, I don't care. Show me how you used it. Like, what were the questions you asked? Because that's the stuff that excites me, right? you're asking, you're understanding what it is that you're looking for, and that's what we're trying to teach you, right? So
Yeah, great
training's
point.
going to be it's going to be a big one,
Mhm.
right? You look at any new firefighter and you're like, okay, explain flow path to me, deer in headlights. Now, how does it work? Well, work with AI and understand it.
Really.
Look at the whys behind it.
Yep. Yeah, I love that last part where it's like essentially it's like a tutor or a mentor in your back pocket, right? Where it's, you can be studying on the weekend if you want. You can sitting on a ferry or waiting for a flight, and you can continue your learning path, right? And I think that's so critical.
Yeah, and that's a big one. It's
Yep.
it's allowing you to learn anywhere,
Mhm.
right? How many times have you had a thought where you're just like, oh, that's a pretty good idea, and you can throw it in and have a conversation about it,
Yep.
right? Because ideas always don't come when we're sitting in an office, sitting in front of a computer, have a notebook with us, right? They come at any time of day or night.
Your example about the student who had that really amazing report, and you asked what tools they're using, and you talked about the prompts essentially of what it was asking AI to do. You can ask an AI to give me a lesson plan to raise a ladder, or you can give it a lesson plan to raise a ladder for VEIS, for a rescue of a one person, a two person. You can expand on that prompt so it actually gives you that good information. So that kind of proves to you that the firefighter knows what they're talking about versus tell me, give me a lesson plan for ladders. That's
Yeah,
that's pretty default,
pretty
pretty basic, right? So yeah,
pretty generic. Yeah,
yeah,
we seen it early on, and I have the conversation with my students too. They have a tendency when you get in with it, you treat it like Google. You ask it one question, you get one response, and then you close it, and that's it,
right.
right? That isn't. You're having a conversation. You're asking questions. You're providing it data as well. You can provide it a PDF. You can provide it an image. You can give it a video, right? There's a lot of things that you can do with it. So don't treat it just as kind of that one-off conversation. Continue to work with it, right? And then as you're learning, you can even ask AI to create you a set of questions that you then need to answer and explain your rationale behind it. And it can work with you in helping you understand, that problem that you're trying to solve or that question you're trying to answer.
Yeah, I've used it in the past for building my own flashcards to learn a certain aspect of the nervous system that I was working on, right? It's like nervous system, a little complex, teach me it real basic, right? And do it in a flashcard form. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
love
do
it.
an exercise with my students. We take a very advanced topic that they don't deal with for 2 years, and I have them put it in and just ask AI to explain it. And then the students they're lost because it's explaining something complex in a complex way. And then I tell them, say, okay, listen, now ask it to explain it to you like you're 5 years old. And that's when things flip where they're like, oh, okay, see, this is a lot simpler. You don't have to just take what it says right there. If you don't understand, ask it. Explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm 10. Explain it to me like I know nothing about this topic. And it
Explain it to
will.
me
It
like I'm
will.
a firefighter.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it, love it. So for the listener right now who's thinking, all right, AI sounds interesting. It sounds like something maybe I'll dig into. I've kind of been avoiding it. I've been thinking that's not something I want to entertain. Where would somebody start digging into AI, learning a bit about it, and testing it?
Yeah, well, there's the various platforms out there. I mean, everybody's used probably some version of ChatGPT. Starting there, just to kind of explore and work with AI. There's tons of courses like on LinkedIn Learning and things like that that you can take, night courses at colleges, universities, depending on where you are. Lots of books that you can read, but remember you have access to AI, and AI can actually teach you how to use AI. Just
Yeah,
ask it,
yeah.
right? I've never touched this before. How do I work with you? What is a prompt? How do I ask the right question? Engage it, have it ask you questions so it can better understand what it is that you're looking for. Um, Really starting there, if you're doing research, sites like perplexity.ai is phenomenal. It summarizes topics for you. It provides all of its sources for you, and it gives you additional questions too. So it takes some of that prompting away. So you can almost classify it as like a Google on steroids, right? And Google's getting to that with, you see with the responses, it has its AI summary. Perplexity just takes it a couple steps further with it. But start off small, right? You don't have to jump in and go, I need to fully understand how AI works, right? Just start soft. Work with a couple of the tools, play around with them. Don't give yourself a hard timeline and saying, I'm going to have this writing SOPs and SOGs for me tomorrow. It's not. You're going to spend a lot of time fighting with it just to give it back kind of something similar to what you gave it, right? Because it is going to take a bit of work, right? So give yourself some time with it, right? Explore the tools that are out there that are going to help you and take away some of that learning curve, right? And that's what we've done with Assist. We're just asking you for your information in terms of equipment, in terms of personnel, in terms of, your population density, things like that. And the system takes over from there and does everything else. You don't have to tell it, your population. You don't have to go into all of those details. It takes care of the majority of that for you.
I definitely have noticed the I guess the improvement to AI with the citations that it now provides, right? And I think that's a huge thing for a lot of people as well, if they're doing some sort of report or research, that it actually is not just picking stuff out of thin air. It's actually showing you where it's getting the information from, right? So that's another huge bonus. When you were talking, I was thinking, man, fire investigation. I could see that being super useful. I never really thought of that until just the second, with even using imagery of
Mhm.
the fire scene, of a picture of a wall, and have an AI give its opinion of maybe where the origin is, maybe the point of origin, maybe the pattern that it's seen on the wall. Just maybe not replacing the investigator. Well, definitely not replacing, but maybe providing some more information, some more knowledge, and maybe even supporting the investigator's findings as well, right? So, yeah, just thought of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
that could be another huge use case
Mhm,
for AI with
mhm,
where it's going with images and training a model to do just that.
mhm. Yeah, wow, that's cool. So, tell our listener a little bit about the business that we've kind of touched on Assist. We've touched on what it is, but maybe let's start right from the beginning of what the platform is, who it's for, and how it can support firefighters, fire chiefs, training officers in a way that's going to help them free up some time in their lives.
Yeah. So we've created Assist to do just that, to support, right? Support those that heavy lifting when it comes to paperwork, especially in and around training. And we focused a lot of our effort into scenario-based training, and that's been a big one for us, right? You're going to retain a lot more. Your retention's going to be a lot higher with scenario-based training versus, listen to me lecture or read this chapter or watch this video, right? We're going to lose a lot of that, right? But once we look at scenarios and we start to learn the why, the how, right? Having those conversations, that's going to be the big piece where we're going to increase retention in firefighters in what they're learning. They're going to be a lot more engaged in wanting to do training, right? Some people like to train, others, I kind of learn as I go. But if we can engage people early on, it's definitely going to help. Um, Overall, time savings a big one. We have capabilities of tracking built right in, tracking the NFPA standards. We track the various skills that people train to. We have smart objectives, training objectives that we track as well. We track the firefighter throughout it as well. If the department doesn't have any sort of tracking software that they already use, if they do, our information could be ported over to that as well. And really, at the end of the day, for the training officer, that's going to be the big time saving. The huge benefit to the chief or a chief training officer is going to be what the system outputs at the end, right? At the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the year. What have we done? What have we covered, right? What were all those objectives? We can do a report on that, pull that information out, right? And have a real conversation about how our training went, right? Getting feedback from the firefighters, seeing the firefighters in real time on the fire ground going, wow, ventilation couldn't have done it better. Okay, why? Why is that going as good as it did? We can go back and look, oh, well, we covered ventilation 18 times this year, right? We covered it with these various scenarios. And this one kind of matches up to a scenario that we covered in real time with our firefighters, right? They've already done it. It's become muscle memory to them. And, it was flawless, right? And that's the goal of what we're trying to achieve here is helping the training officer be that person on the fire ground, walking people through those scenarios versus the training officer stuck in an office and not being out there, with the trainee, right? Why be 30 hours in the office and 10 hours on the training grounds? Why not 30 hours on the training ground and 10 hours in the office?
Love that. How many firefighters, or sorry, fire departments are using this across North America right now?
We are currently on or starting up now our seventh pilot
Awesome.
with this, and it will be our first for our Generation 3 system. So we've been working over the past year to evolve the product from our Gen 1 system right up through Gen 2 wasn't around long. As we were going through our pilots, working with departments, having conversations like this, having conversations with firefighters and training officers, and hearing about their pain points and what it was, that would help them. We quickly evolved, Generation 2 into what it is today in Generation 3. And just this morning, I think we broke 3.2. So we've added even more stuff in, looking at a lot of compliancy down in the US.
So I'm thinking of, the fire chief or the firefighters are listening right now. They're like, okay, I'm going to upload this documentation, but we already have a fire management system. We have a CAD system. We have all these other systems in place. Can these all talk to each other without me having to upload each one? Is there any automations, any syncing that could happen instead of somebody having to download files, upload files, download files, upload files, transfer? Is there systems in place like that already for a lot of these AI companion softwares?
Uh, yes and no.
Mhm.
It depends on the access of some of these systems. If the system's closed off, but there are a fair number of software out there that they do create and allow access to have bridges between pieces of software to talk to each other. So we're seeing more and more of that. But sometimes there's always going to be that place with, depending on kind of the age of the software that the department is using, there might be a need that you have to kind of transfer information back and forth. But then you kind of have to weigh that with the pros and cons. I've saved 10 hours here and caused myself an hour of extra work here, right? Or now I have that 10 extra hours, right? So you kind of weigh the pros and cons with that. But a lot of the software that's out there that's web-based, a lot of them, create those APIs that allow things to talk to one another.
Nelson, what's one question that you wish I asked you that I have not asked you yet?
Huh. That's a good question.
Hmm.
I think you hit them all, and I think circling back to burnout, right? One thing I think for anybody listening, right? And I can't praise my wife enough for this. She knows when I'm getting close, and weeks before it's happening. And she can just look at me and go, "You're doing it again. You know what's going to happen," right? Support those people around you. Check in, ask a question, right? It could take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What's that out of your day, right? What's an hour to sit down with a training officer who's stressed and just say, "Hey, I know you need stuff picked up. Give me a list. I'll go," right? Free up some of my time. I'll get out there and get that stuff for you. So, we're responsible for ourselves, but we're a team at the end of the day, And we got to be there for each other. And sometimes, have those tough conversations and say, dudette, take a break, right? You're due for vacation. Or what can we do to help out with this? What would make your job a little easier? Right? And it's so important, right? We got to be there for each other. But for anybody that's instructing, recognize that threshold, right? You could work with AI to make your own little questionnaire with a scale on it, right? Man, I'm a 7 today. Well, you're getting 2 days away from burnout, right? How can we help ourselves? But right, how can we help others with this and help them recognize when they're getting close? Because we're our own worst enemy when it comes to that. Because we're just going to put our heads down. We're going to push through. That's how we're going to beat this problem. But we're not beating it, right?
I love that because once again, it goes back to that connection again. AI can help us free up our space up in our brains and our time to actually connect with people again, connect with our wives, our partners, our husbands, our firefighters, fire chiefs, connect with our people, connect with our community again, right? So
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
We need to connect more.
Yeah, I love it.
We definitely do.
So how can people learn more about Justin, your company? If they want to connect with you, they want to reach out or regarding the assist, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, or you can send me an email, justin@desisolve.ca. And then also we have desisolve.ca as our web address, so you can reach out to us there as well. All right, we have an Instagram handle as well for Desisolve. We're on Facebook, so just do a quick search and reach out. Right, I'm always wanting to talk with people. Right, I want to hear how you're training, what works, what doesn't work. Right, I'm a lifelong student. I love learning. That's why I love teaching. And that never stops. So I love to have those conversations with people and just hear. I want to know new ways of instructing. I want to know new things that work. I want to hear about things that don't work, right? It's going to help us overall as a community, as instructors, to better what it is that we do. And at the end of the day, that's going to better the fire services, right? Better instructing leads to better training.
And that's really what we're there for, is good, solid training. That's what attracts people. It attracts new recruits, either paid or volunteer, and that's what keeps them.
Yep.
That's what keeps them. Good training. If we're not having good training officers, good training programs, usually you can look at the membership and it's dwindling as well, right? So
yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. Everyone listening right now, hopefully you either feel more comfortable with AI or you've got a bit of an interest in tweaking that AI into your life and how it can support your wellness and your, preventing burnout, but just your overall life balance and your stress indicators, as well as 10xing, 100xing, 50xing your learning in life, right? So thank you, Justin, for sharing your wisdom. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It's been great.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed this great episode with Justin. Be sure to check him out on his website and connect with him if you have AI questions that maybe could help your organization as well. So until next time, stay well. All right, that's a wrap.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.